I'm going to be doing an experiment today using different ratios of Floetrol, that's a pouring medium I'm going to be using, to paint. I'm going to be doing 6 canvases, pretty small because I don't want to waste a bunch of money on my experiments, but I'm going to be doing 1 part Floetrol to 1 part paint, then 2 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint, and then 3 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint, both with and without silicone, so that'll count for the 6 canvases. I have purchased the same type of paint for all of my colors. Typically I'll do these Artist Loft Flow acrylics. They are liquidier, so I don't have to add as much Floetrol or pouring medium as you would with this kind. This is just standard acrylic paint, so I've got Artist Loft. I usually use black and white to make separation in the colors or for the backgrounds, but today I'm going to be using brown and white. I have never done a painting with brown before. I'm a little bit intimidated by it, so what a perfect time to do it on my experiment. I'll be doing turquoise, light magenta, and deep yellow, also all Artist Loft. There's some colors I don't typically go for either, but I'm trying to expand my horizons. So I also picked up a kitchen scale. It shows fluid ounces, grams, milligrams, pounds. So I'm going to be measuring out my paint that way. I want it to be as controlled of an experiment as possible. When I do it, I'm also going to be layering the paints in the same order and I'm going to do a flip cup, and I'm going to put them on the same spot in the canvas to try and, basically what I'm trying to do is figure out what gives me the most cells and what looks the best, because cells doesn't always equal nice. Sometimes just the marbling effect is nicer, but I'm very interested to see if I did want to do a piece with a lot of cells, how would I achieve that. So I'm going to be I picked up a piece of balsa wood, and I'm going to be attaching the canvases to this using double-sided tape that I picked up. And that way I can hold the canvas and kind of tilt, and it'll all stay as standard as possible to really show what each of the ratios of Floetrol to paint actually do. There's 3 kinds of canvases that I use. This one is the canvas board. I will not be using that today. It bows out with this style of painting. You can flatten it by spraying the back with water and then putting something heavy on the back of it, on the back of the canvas. That'll flatten it out, but it's too much work for just an experiment. So I'll be using the stretch canvas that's just stretched, wrapped around a wooden frame, and then stapled on the back. I do have gallery wrapped heavy duty canvas. I'm not going to be using that for the experiment because it's very expensive. I save this for commissions and gifts and stuff for my own home. So that is canvas stretched, wrapped around a wooden frame, and then it's got heavy duty staples to an inner frame as well. So this stuff is pretty pricey. It's good to shop when you have coupons and their sales. These canvases can run from, that was probably $25, $30 for that canvas, all the way up to $150 for a very large canvas. So it's very good to shop when there's deals. At any rate, I'm going to be using the stretch canvas. I have prepared most of my canvases. On the back, I've put tape around it to protect the bottom. I don't like even though this is an experiment, they might turn out cool, so I want to keep that in mind that I may want to keep these. You don't have to tape the backs, but it keeps the lines on the sides cleaner. I like to have the lines, or the sides exposed, because I like the way the paint flows down the sides. I've also labeled each one of these. This one is 2F, 1P, and S. That stands for 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint, no silicone. So every single one of these I've labeled them both on the tape and the actual canvas itself, so that when I remove the tape later and go back and see what the results are, I will remember exactly what I did. I'm going to be thinning these with water as needed. I'm not necessarily going to be measuring the water. I'm just going to go by feel when I stir it. So after I get the controlled experiment part of it down, as far as the recipe goes, then I'll just add water based on how it looks in the cup and on the popsicle stick that I'm going to be mixing with. Other than that, I'm going to start measuring out my paints, and I will be back in a moment to do the actual experiment. So I'll see you in just a bit. Thank you. Okay, so I want to do an experiment today using Floetrol because that is the least expensive pouring medium, and I can get so much in a container. I use probably about, I don't know, half a gallon for this experiment. So, you know, $6, $7, something like that for half a gallon. I use Artist Sloth acrylics. I did not use the Flow acrylics, so I wanted this to be pretty standard because when I do the smaller tubes, they're not Flow acrylic. I don't even know if they have them in the smaller tubes, but anyway. So I did all the same brand and same description. This is Burnt Umber. I've never used brown before. That's kind of exciting. Titanium White. And light magenta, turquoise, and deep yellow. So we'll see how this turns out. This first one I'm going to do no silicone. See if I get some cells or exactly what happens. I did 1 part Floetrol to 1 part paint, 2 parts Floetrol to 2 parts paint, 3 parts Floetrol, 3 parts to 1 part paint. I don't know if I said that right, but 1 flow, 1 paint, 2 flow, 1 paint, 3 flow, 1 paint, and then same with the whites over here. So this first one's going to be done without any silicone and just see what happens. I'm going to do brown on bottom, then yellow, then blue, then pink, with brown alternating in between to hopefully create some distance between those colors. I don't know what it's going to turn out like. Like I said, I've never used brown before, so hopefully it is not ugly. So I got my scale here. I'm actually going to be doing these the exact same order for everything, and I'm going to try and do the same amount of paint for each one. I'm going to do a 1/2 ounce of brown. This might actually I'm going to do a little less than that, because these cups are pretty small. And then twice as much yellow. I can do my math. Nope, I'm going to do equal parts of everything. Yeah, that's what I'll do. And then some brown, and this is the 1 part Floetrol, 1 part paint. Oh, I have a feeling I'm not going to like this. But we will see. The turquoise all up in there. doing a little over half an ounce of each. I only added water to the one part mix. The 2 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint I didn't add any water to, except for the pink. It was fairly thick, so I did add some water to all of the pinks, probably only about half an ounce. So, first cup, I think I'm just going to do each one of these once. One of each layer, color layer. So, get the 1:1 set to the side. Give my scale a little wipe. I want to add paint to it, or add the weight of this paint that I've dripped onto it. I'm trying to make this as controlled of an experiment as possible. And then I'm going to do the 2 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint, and so on and so forth, and I'll be back once I finish that. Okay, I've measured out my paints. I got about 2.5 ounces of each paint, of each recipe. 2.5 ounces of each recipe, layered the exact same way, as much as I could, the same amount. I did measure it. I think I got a little much brown in there, but at any rate, I'm going to be putting each one of these in the center. I've drawn a line in the center, or a dot in the center, so I can hopefully get them in the same spot roughly. The only hard thing about this is going to be putting the cup on it. Normally I would flip the canvas and then the cup, but unless I make myself some sort of a paint luge, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that, but I'm just going to attempt to get it in the right spot. The same spot per. And let's see what happens. Going to be using a bit of white just to kind of get things flowing. So 1 part white. Do need to save some of this for the next experiment, which will be utilizing silicone. So for this one, I'm not too terribly concerned about the edges. I can always go back and fix those later if I like. I'm just going to spread this white around to help the paints flow a little better, hopefully. There's not too much paint in each one of these. This isn't too thick. Probably should have thinned this out with a little bit of water because brown and white were the first ones I mixed, so they have been sitting longer. All the paint sat for about 30 minutes to get rid of any bubbles. There's still some in there, but shouldn't be too shabby. Okay, so let's see what happens. Gonna pull straight up. Straight up. And you guessed it, straight up. Now let's see what these have done so far. That looks pretty cool. I'm going to do a little torcheroo on all of these, just to get things going. So the one with 3 parts Floetrol, looks like it already has more cells in it than the other 2. Okay, and with that, the fun part. Try and keep this in frame so you can see it. It's not always going to be possible for all of it, but get the idea. interesting. Kind of wishing I would have stirred it just a little bit. This 3 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint one is flowing very well, even though I did add water to the 1 part. Going to attempt to tilt these the exact same way to get more standardized results, but you can already see that the 3 parts Floetrol to 1 part paint is pretty awesome. The 1-in-1 is not flowing as well. So, I'm going to actually pull these off. And tilt it by itself. Wow, this double-sided tape is awesome. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Okay. And of course it's sticking to the glove, so that's fun. Oof. Okay. Switch these over just a touch. Yeah. Wish I would have thinned this one out a little more with water. But this is 1 part Floetrol, 1 part paint. And this is what it's doing. I don't think I'm going to cover the entire thing because, frankly, it doesn't look like it wants to. And that's fine. Doesn't need to. Get the basic idea. So, I'm actually going to leave that one as it is. Move on. Leave it as it is and move on. As soon as I can get this to stop sticking to me. Ha! I've done it. Wipe my gloves a little bit. This keeps me from having to replace my gloves every 5 minutes. And move on. To the 3 part, or excuse me, the 2 part Floetrol. 1 part paint. Disappointed there's so much pink in this. It's an experiment. I've never used this palette before. It's kind of interesting. I think I'm only going to spread it just as much as the other one for now. Just to kind of see what happens. Keep it as similar as possible. When I do the silicone one, I will give it a little stir to mix up the colors just a tiny bit. Actually, no, I'm not going to. This is an experiment and I want it to be the same. So, here's the other one. This one's flowing very nicely. This is the 3 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint. Wow, it's just sliding around. Oh, it looks really nice. So yeah, it's safe to say that the 3 part is where it's at for me anyway. Wow, I've seen a lot of people do recommend 2 parts. That actually isn't too impressive to me. Again, I tried to keep this as controlled as possible. You know, there's a chance that I did something a little bit different between these, but for the most part, it's as controlled as I could make it. And we all know how pour painting goes. You can only control so much. And I want to control so much. Okay. I will show you the final results once I've cleaned these up a little bit. I'm making a little bit of a mess. That's part of the fun, isn't it? Thank you for watching. Photos to follow.